This is some hot, I don't know why, but it's some hot news that came out a few days ago, because I think a lot of people like to pile on Goldberg, to be honest. So, Goldberg was on a podcast. For some reason, I've not written what podcast, but he was on a podcast talking. And then he's talking about probably just why he hates WWE, because he seems to do it quite a lot at the moment, and his streak, the winning streak. And then he says that WWE something, quote, well, a girl beat my winning streak, said Goldberg. Asuka, or I think he pronounced it Asuka, is her name, some Japanese girl. And they touted her as being the one to have the longest winning streak, and it just so happened that it culminated when I got there. The WCW legend also cited another aspect of his repertoire, his spear, as being appropriated by WWE, with him claiming that every wrestler performs his iconic move. And then it just so happened that every single wrestler uses the spear in their moves, right? Ironic that happened when I got there, which it didn't. So that's how they do it, said Goldberg. So, okay, I've got more to read about this in a short while, but one, he's whinging that people have stolen his spear, which Edge was doing the spear in the 90s. He stole it when Goldberg was still in WCW. And Rhino, he was in ECW, doing the spear or the gore. And also that Asuka took over his winning streak.
Listen, Bill, wrestling, whether you've been informed of this or not, it is kind of pre-planned.
You didn't beat anyone, Bill. You didn't beat anyone. They let you win.
And he did it in a way, the match never got underway. It was over in a minute. And they did this for months and months and months. The real thing is that if that didn't get you over, nothing would. Let me say something about Bill Goldberg. He got his streak over. It caught on. People liked it. But if he went more than 5 minutes, you know what you would do? You'd be looking for this concession stand. Because he couldn't do a 5-10 minute match. Because then that's not Bill Goldberg. They conditioned the fan. Okay, if I'm sitting there and Bill Goldberg's up next, I want to go to the concession stand or somebody said, no, wait a minute, you go out to the next match. Really? Why? Because, it'll be short and you get to see it and then you can go. Because his matches only went like 1 or 2 minutes. His matches, even with Flair, if he had many matches with him, and nobody wanted to work with Goldberg because he was so limited, and he got better as he went along. I never worked with him, but he had that football philosophy of just beat them up, knock them down, and go home. And the people accepted that because that's what they knew him from football. Not that he was a big football star, but that's where he came from. Who got him in the business so we can blame them?
Eric Watts has claimed it.
Who?
Eric Watts has claimed he got him in the business. A few people have claimed it. Claimed that they got him in the business.
Well, but anyway, so anybody that looks at that stuff seriously, which I think he did, or otherwise, where did he put this? Did he put this tweet out?
No, it's a podcast. There are more tweets. I'll mention the tweets in a minute, but no, this is a podcast interview he got. But let me give you this. Okay, so Asuka has a longer winning streak than Goldberg. Do you know how many people talk about that? 0. Goldberg's winning streak is the greatest winning streak in all of pro wrestling history, I'm sure. I'll give you another example. Ric Flair, 23-time world champion, but 16-time world champion. Hey, his daughter Charlotte's 16-time world champion. Do you know who talks about how many people talk about Charlotte's 16 championship? 0.
Nobody.
Because Ric Flair's, he made it famous. It's the person, not the, you know what I mean? The person who makes the streak or the amount of title wins, not the other way around.
Well, I'm agreeing. Nobody gives a crap. Nobody cares. Even when you sit down with serious wrestling fans, they don't even bring that up. I mean, if it was even, I don't think boxing fans bring up the record of their favorite boxer. Nobody cares. I think you went to see Ric Flair because he usually had, if you didn't go to too many of them, because all his matches toward the end were the same match, just with a different opponent. It's the same moves over and over and over and over. So you would get that same routine, and nobody cares. But let me tell you who does care. Bill Goldberg cares. He cares because, and we have a saying for it in the business, he's a mark for himself. And sometimes that hurts you. It won't hurt Goldberg, but it can hurt somebody very badly. Because if you get instructed to do this in a match, well, if you're a mark for yourself, I would give you about 2 times to the booker, and when you say, I don't feel like my character would do that, well, you may be out of a job coming 2 weeks. He'll run you to the end and let you go. So that's too good for your own good. Too good for your own good. Let me say that.
I just can't believe he's nearly 60 and he still gives this much of a crap about. It's like,
how old is he?
He's nearly 60. He's got to be. He's like late 50s. And it's like, dude. Grow up.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. You had a fantastic run. I'm a huge Goldberg fan, by the way. I know it sounds like I'm not, but I love Goldberg. And he was a massive star, regardless of his limitations or not. And he put on really exciting matches as well.
In 2 minutes?
Damn straight he did. Loved it. He was the most popular guy on every card. And you had like your Hogans and your Stings and everyone. He was the man in the day.
Well, he was different. Let me say that. When he got in the ring, and he looked like the real deal. He looked like a type of wrestler you just don't mess with. See, I've seen a lot of wrestlers go to the ring and fans in the crowd say, I can beat his ass. I can beat him up. I can do this. I can do that. It's like my English guy, I've told you about before, John Foley. If you looked at him, you'd say, how? And he can't be tough. And sometimes promoter, and this is an old English guy, folks. If you don't know who I'm talking about, his name is John Foley. And the old English promoters used to have guys say, they're not so tough. We figured this out. He said, oh, yeah. He said, you want to wrestle somebody tonight? Yeah, I'll wrestle. And he would line 4 guys up. And he would always line up the guys with the big guys with the big bodies. And then he would line up John Foley at the end of them. He'd line up about 3 guys. But the least one of them would be John Foley. And John would be over there smoking a cigarette. And the guy, of course, he's going to pick John. That's the worst one he could have picked. Because John was an old-time shooter. He could break your shoulder. He could break your neck. If he put you in a special hold, he could do it. And he'd have them down, and they would go into the ring, and and they would explain the situation. He wants to wrestle. He wants to get into professional wrestling. This guy, Joe Smo, and he wants to do his exhibition match in front of you fans. Yeah, I would sit up and watch it. And John, he'd take about a minute and a half, because John, he didn't look any better in the ring than he did standing in the back. And John would just get him down, put him in the sugar, and the guy can't do nothing. So then the guy would get up, he's embarrassed, and the promoter probably lost selling a ticket every week because he was too embarrassed to come back. But John would just stretch him. What was you going to say?
I was going to say, do you know who else did that? Ole Anderson, when he was like the Rock Rogowski and he was breaking into the AWA. And Vern said, right, you can wrestle one of us, let's see what you got. And it was like Vern and I don't know who else, Carl Gotch. And at the end is a little guy, and Ole says, I'll take the little guy. It's Danny Hodge.
Oh, God.
So anyway, he dies in the ring, essentially. He's, punished anyway, but they still let him in and he still becomes a big star straight away. Getting back to what we were saying before with Goldberg, I want to put out 2 things here. One, he has said that the streak wouldn't have been the streak if he had his own way, because he actually pitched quite early in the streak, only a few months in, to lose to Bobby Eaton, because they're in Bobby Eaton's hometown, and Goldberg just loves Bobby Eaton, and he said, just let me just let him win. Let him get his, let him get his props for once. And the powers that be said absolutely not. And the other thing is,
well, I can see that because they they worked. It was a plan to take him to whatever number or whatever, and it was believable. And just because the guy's in his hometown, that was Huntsville, Alabama. That's where Bobby was from. No, they're not going to let Bobby go over there because he didn't fit in their plans. And he didn't understand what they were trying to do with him. So he should have thanked their lucky stars that, no, we're not, we're going to have to put the hiatus on that. We're not going to let Bobby beat you. And the people, him and Bobby could have had a hell of a match because Bobby, if I would list the top 5 really working in the ring, not on the mic, because Bobby couldn't say hello to you in real life, so you'd understand him, because he had this drawl. He'd go, and you say, and I would say, what? And I'd have him say it 2 or 3 times. Then I'd say, brother, please slow down or do something. Enunciate your words a little more. But and if that is true, that's a tribute to Bill. But that's also out of misinformation, or he didn't understand what they were trying to do with him. But he's also shown that he is a misogynist.
Is he? I mean,
so he talked about that girl in Japan that said they let her take his record. You don't think it proves that?
No.
I don't either. I just said it. Because I just wanted to use the word misogynist.
So many people say, well, he's a misogynist. How dare he describe her as a girl? As a woman.
No, not that. It's a female.
Yeah.
It's not even, they didn't even let a male top his record. It had to be a female.
What if Ryback did it? Goldberg's head may have exploded if that had happened.
I would like to, I swear to God, I would have bought a ticket to see Ryback and Goldberg.
No, you wouldn't, because we did go right. So Ryback was trying to politic for a Ryback versus Goldberg match for Goldberg's retirement.
I'm all for
you
it.
said that was the worst thing in the world.
I did?
Oh, yeah. At the time, you were saying that is the absolute worst match ever. No one will ever buy that.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about something else now.
All right.
Listen, I have different angles on all these little things you throw at me. Yeah, it would have been a horrible match, but Goldberg by himself against anybody else probably be a horrible match too.
Asuka. Goldberg versus Asuka for the streak.
I like it. I think it'd draw a house. I really do.
I think it would.
I think it would.
It should be Goldberg versus some Japanese girl, and we'll see
in Japan. But we'd listen. How would you handicap Goldberg?
He has to wear a very heavy hat, made of like a
he'd have
stovepipe hat made out of lead.
One arm behind his back tied. Okay, so he could only have one arm. We got to do something with his leg. We got to put a weight on it or something, or weight it down, or do something with it to even it up. Yes, I would be interested in seeing how they would do that match. Yeah, that's in Japan. Of course, I couldn't go to it.
No, Tokyo.
But I would go. Oh, well, I couldn't probably get a ticket for Dave Meltzer buying them all up, because it would have been a 7-star match. Or in Tokyo Dome, probably an 8-star. But
that may come up a bit later.
But I would seriously, if they had announced on WWE or anybody, they just Goldberg versus, what was his name you was talking about?
Ryback.
Ryback, I forgot it already. I would be interested in seeing what they would do with it. Not to say who's the toughest, but, there'd be some hurt feelings going into that match. And if they got a DQ, I would say, you chicken doo-doo people. I mean, but they've never had a match, so who's going to win this?
I like that. Goldberg versus Ryback in a hurt feelings match. Whose feelings can get hurt the most?
I'd go to it if I could.
Yeah, I'd be ringside. We're going to leave Goldberg now. I did want to bring up very quickly, but we won't talk. He's complaining that people use the spear. And it's like, dude, you basically invented the move in wrestling, or I think he did, to that degree. And other people have copied it. It's like Jake's DDT. Just like you still do it the best. Jake still does it the best. And you always get the pin from it, so you still do it the best.
I did it first.
No, you did short arm clothesline first. Or are you saying the DDT?
Oh, not the DDT. I did the short arm clothesline.
I think Jake denied that, but
no way he would deny it. But I was in Fort Worth. I still have the card from when I worked with Jake the Snake in Texas, Fort Worth. Actually, it was a Monday night or a Tuesday night. I wasn't in Texas long enough to learn their schedule. I didn't like it, so I took off. I was there about 3 weeks.